С семьей, как известно, лучше всего выходишь на фотографии. Но когда ведешь семейный бизнес, уже не до шуток. Особенно, когда папа бывает нервным. Ставки в этой игре крупные. Надо удержать репутацию самого лучшего производителя мотоциклов по специальному заказу. Теперь, на протяжении всех каникул, вы можете больше смотреть ваш любимый сериал. «Американский чоппер» уже через минуту на канале Discovery.
Poți să te bucuri de performanțele unui Citroen C5 fără să ai licență de pilot. Citroen C5. Tehnologie cu personalitate. Cu 16.950 de euro poți avea acum un Citroen C5 jet diesel cu 138 de cai putere și pachet complet pentru siguranță și confort.
Am numele Mauro Doricic, živesc în Jejen, но селище че се кулинка на диалект че се cheamă Istro-Romanski.
De la Cioanzei, metarea tradiția pe la posta să îndorta sa direct doi zvoncioare ce mai bine unei sopoare. Zvoncioar are două șube. Una e pre herbet, una e cu de post și preia vedu trei clopute. Značenje de čora pika și cum se sună și tot se trne sile chiar de la sire porega și čone că nu vidu ni pre blaga, znači čaj ca și o zaštita de blaga. Ciò è della nostra cultura, che ascoltato la nostra maniera ma sempre mai riesce.
Connecting through culture, celebrating diversity.
It was the beginning of the 20th century. Ox wagons were still trailing across the veldt when a young South African, John Weston, set his sights on conquering the skies. Modern historians like Dave Becker regard him as the foremost pioneer of aviation in Africa.
John Weston, I think, was the first real aeronautical engineer in South Africa. He was trying to put aviation on a sound technical footing as opposed to mere showmanship and air displays and so on. In March 1911, he was instrumental in getting the Aeronautical Society of South Africa formed, which is purely a technical and scientific organization to promote and advance aviation. Weston produced possibly the first successful original design aircraft in South Africa. The big problem was to find a suitable engine to power the aircraft, and he couldn't get the aircraft to leave the ground.
My grandfather, John Weston, went to France with his problems and spoke to Henry Farman, who was the aviator of the day in France. He was able to get a 50 horsepower Gnome engine to propel the aircraft. With Henry Farman, he designed an aeroplane which they then called the Western Farman biplane.
There were many modifications to the original design. Among them was the dihedral angle on the lower planes, providing the aircraft with greater stability. But building a plane was the beginning of a bigger dream, to popularize flight in the land of his birth.
When he came back to South Africa, he wanted to start a flying school, and his demos were basically to introduce the public to aircraft, to their safety, and he was more interested in the technical side of the aircraft, not so much the aerobatic side of it.
Weston flew exhibition flights in a variety of aircraft. He also predicted a grand future for passenger and cargo flights, when planes were barely getting off the ground.
He had a passion for flying, and he had a vision for where aviation should be going in South Africa. And from that, he's widely regarded as the grandfather of aviation in South Africa. He had a vision of creating a school for aviation, and he approached De Beers, the mining company, for the use of land in Kimberley. But unfortunately for him, he didn't win the tender for training the first 10 pilots for the South African Aviation Corps. That went to Cecil Compton Patterson. A problem for John Weston was that he was primarily an engineer and a scientist rather than a communicator. And some of his competitors were perhaps better at showmanship, and they were easily able to impress people. He believed in the sort of dictum that the Wright brothers believed in. He said the most talkative bird is the parrot, and it doesn't fly very much. In June 1911, he also set up a South African record flight of 8.5 minutes, which was not very much by current standards, but by that time it was considered to be an incredible achievement. John Weston suffered a couple of setbacks with his aircraft. The first incident was when his tent blew down and damaged the aircraft. But worse was still to come when his workshop at his house in Brantford burnt down. And he said to my grandmother Lily, I think we're finished now, financially as well. He eventually retired to his farm, and tragically he was murdered on the farm in the 1950s, and South Africa lost one of its true pioneers in aviation.
John Weston contributed to the proud foundations of aviation in South Africa. A scientist and a visionary, he will not be forgotten.
Адам Савич, Джейми Хайнеман выполняют свое самое опасное задание. Полная неизвестность, опасность, настоящая драма. Знаменитая киноэпопея подвергается серьезной проверке. Не пропустите специальную двухчасовую программу, посвященную знаменитому фильму «Челюсти. Разрушители легенд». В воскресенье на канале Discovery.